If you've been enjoying R4E, the Reason for Everything podcast, please be sure to like, follow, and subscribe on all platforms or wherever you get your podcasts. Brooklyn doors is a big deal these days, I've heard. So,
Oh yeah. Oh, they're so. Everybody loves a Brooklyn door.
it could be a good name for a pizza place one day. Just saying.
Brooklyn door.
You heard it here
That's
first.
not a bad idea. Band name or pizzeria?
I was gonna say band name, but keeping in the theme of today's show, I figured we'll go pizza shop.
I was in bands before I was in pizza, so they're both near and dear.
Let's dive into that. So, I know we started chatting a bit before we started recording here. You got the pizza mug and everything on brand, Scott. Sheesh.
This is just my everyday here.
That's fair. So maybe as a little bit of context. So over the holidays, I've seen your content online before. I've had Andres Lagden, who built Baking Steel. I've had him on my show before. I'm, like I said, deep in the pizza world. I've seen your content over the last few years. But what came to my attention, why I wanted to reach out in the first place, was I saw you on the First We Feast Legend of Lucali YouTube interview with the Lucali team with Chris DiStefano. And I was like, all right, I need to learn more about Scott. And so I started, diving into your journey and background. Could only get so far in the, digital world. And so wanted to have a conversation with you and learn a little bit more about how you made pizza your career, because I know there are many people, including myself, that's very jealous of that. So with that, I'd love to give you a chance to introduce yourself to my audience. And then I have a ton of questions I want to pepper you with.
I love it. Yeah, my name's Scott Wiener. I am based in New York City, here in Brooklyn, and my whole life revolves around pizza. I literally eat pizza for a living without any exaggeration. I started a business in 2008 called Scott's Pizza Tours that was just based on my personal obsession with pizza and wanting to share that with people and use it as a way to educate people through the medium of guided tours. So where you might take a architecture tour of Chicago or a haunted tour of Savannah, Georgia, you're in New York, you should understand the pizza culture by taking a pizza tour. And that business has now been around, over 16 years at this point when we're speaking, and it's branched off and become a lot more. I run a nonprofit called Slice Out Hunger. That's nationwide. We do hunger relief fundraising through a network of over 700 pizzerias from coast to coast. We do stuff all the time. That's a huge chunk of my life. And I also run a business called Pizza Resource Center that sells pizza making equipment, including baking steels, pizza peels, ovens, basically just anything that I personally use, we have available. And I don't sell anything that I don't use myself. So this way, anybody has issues, I can help out. And that's my whole universe, is all pizza, judging pizza competitions, writing for pizza magazines, being in weird pizza videos like you saw, everything pizza.
Unreal. Absolutely incredible. And like I said, very, very envious and happy for you that you've been able to build a career around pizza. But I want to learn a little bit more about how you got there. So I know you went to Syracuse for undergrad. Did you grow up in the New York area, or are you, New York through and through?
I grew up in New Jersey. So in a town in Union County, where'd you grow up, Arjan?
I'm from the DC area.
Okay.
So I grew up in Vienna, if you know that area.
I do know Vienna. I know I've been in Vienna many times. I have close friends in Vienna. It's sort of like the way you talk about DC, and you're in Virginia is where you grew up. And the city was New York, of course, because we're a 45-minute train ride away. But we very much grew up in suburban New Jersey.
Gotcha.
So it's this funny thing that if you grow up in Long Island, then you say you're from New York because you are. But it's not New York City in the same way that where I grew up in New Jersey is the same distance. But because we're in a different state, we have pride about, no, I'm not a New Yorker. I'm from Jersey. So I am very much from Jersey. And my living in New York is really because this is where the pizza's at.
I get it. Now, that part of Jersey, is that Summit, or what part of New Jersey exactly you said?
It's not far from Summit. Summit is a town that's maybe 20 minutes away. The town I grew up in is called Cranford.
Very good. Okay. Now, how was the pizza in Cranford growing up? Was there a shortage that, really spurred your interest into this world, or what was your early pizza journey like?
I don't know if anybody would ever say that the pizza they grew up with was bad. because
Fair.
it's the pizza that forms your whole perspective on life.
Hmm.
So the pizza I grew up with was awesome, except from the perspective I am at right now, I look back and I'm like, well, technically none of it was very good, but it doesn't mean it wasn't awesome. It was awesome, even though it wasn't technically made very well. So my favorite place, I'll never forget, it was like a 4 square mile town, and there are 7 or 8 pizzerias. So everybody had favorites, and we
Yeah.
always changed where we went. And like, well, if I'm over there, I go get a slice at that place, and if I'm over there, I get a slice there. If we're ordering, we pick it up on the way home from drum lessons, over here. And all of it was this like 16-inch low moisture mozzarella, roasty, pasty tomato sauce, and a little bit undercooked, so it's kind of flexible and more chewy than it is crisp. But that's also because we usually ate it out of a box if we're taking it home. And now when I look at that pizza, I'm like, oh, that's all one specific genre. And I think what blew my mind about pizza and why I got into this is when I experienced pizza that was different from what I grew up with.
Hmm.
And the stuff that was different was like, wait a second. I thought all I could see was what was in this tunnel. And then I get out of the tunnel and I'm like, oh, the world is much larger.
You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, of course.
To your point about, the pizza you grew up with, there are a handful of different restaurants, and I mean, there's obviously no shortage of restaurants in the area I grew up in, but especially that serve pizza. But for me, I remember getting Papa John's delivered. That was a very visceral memory of mine. I love Papa John's to this day. I've been on the dating apps for a bit, and one of my prompts is my most controversial take is that Papa John's is the best chain pizza place. And I get so much feedback, either agreeing with me or disagreeing with me. I want to start with chain pizza and then get into the good stuff. What's your favorite chain pizza restaurant? I know it's nowhere in that vacuum of chain pizza. What's your favorite?
Totally understand the question. And I'm trying to wrap my head around my experience with chain pizza because I don't eat a lot of chain pizza, and it's not out of snobbery. At least I hope it's not. It's truly out of the fact that every day, literally every day, I'm visiting anywhere from 1 to 8 pizzerias that I love and eating their pizza. So there's just never a point in my life where, like, when you order Papa John's, I'm assuming that you don't like make a plan like a week in advance, like, oh, and then Wednesday, oh, we should. It's probably more of like well, Friday night, my friends are coming over, we'll just order some pizza. Like, it's probably a lax thing. I'm never in that situation ever where there's like, you know what, let's just take it easy tonight and order a pizza. So I haven't eaten a Papa John's pizza. I can look up the date because I remember I'll tell you exactly where it was. It was at Papa John's headquarters in Louisville, Kentucky.
Cool.
And I mean, I wasn't that cool. It was weird. It was like some kind of, they were like, oh, come visit and see how our pizzas are made. And I was like, I want to learn that. So that's interesting. And I was making a pizza, and like Papa John himself was like right there. It was very weird. But that was the last one I ate there. And I didn't love it. My favorite so growing up, we never ate Domino's. Domino's was like poison to my family. Was like an anti-Domino. We would have like our religion was that we didn't like Domino's. We were a Pizza Hut family.
Okay.
But that was because I was growing up in suburban New Jersey in the 90s, and Pizza Hut was life. Pizza Hut was the place where you go and sit down, and there's the red plastic cups. There's the salad bar with the sneeze guard. There's table service, but it always takes too long. But you get a free pizza if you read 5 books in a month. So that was always amazing. And that was our jam. So, but it wasn't a delivery pizza. So that's why it's hard to call the Pizza Hut of my youth fast food pizza. It's more like a fast casual pizza, like a TGI Fridays. So that's why my answer to your question in a long-winded way is I think Domino's is the most consistent of the chain pizzerias. And in a pinch today, we're talking in 2024, Domino's would be the one to get because Pizza Hut no longer makes the same thing. Papa John's I've just never been into. Little Caesars made the best chain pizza I've ever had, but they've also made one of the worst chain pizzas I've ever had. So the inconsistency there is no thanks. Domino's, I feel like you can set your watch by. Final answer, Domino's.
That is the exact answer I was looking for. Not Domino's per se, but that, piece of detail. So thank you for that.
I need to walk you through my thought process because I don't believe in just dropping, the best this is, that's number one, top 5. Like, you got to understand the context. Because then, somebody might disagree. Somebody may be like, oh, I don't need consistency.
No, it makes a ton of sense to me. I appreciate that. So back to your journey. So you Pizza Hut family growing up, anti-Domino's religion. You move on through Jersey. You get up to upstate New York for Syracuse. And you get into the music space, if I did my homework correctly.
Mm-hmm.
What was that experience like for you? Before we were recording, you're obviously very into your audio setup, and it sounds great. So thank you for your diligence there. But what was, the early career like for you? And then at what point did you start to think about, hey, there's actually a career that I could be making out of my passion for pizza? Or was that even a passion of yours? Give me a quick, spark notes of, post grad to pizza industry.
In college, pizza was my love. I don't know if it was a passion yet. It was the early stages of being a passion. And I'll say that just because I wasn't making pizza. I didn't understand the mechanics of it, history of it, any of that. I just liked eating it. And I think that's a big difference between liking a food and then being really passionate about the whole culture of it. But after college, I continued what I was studying in school, which was music production, television, film, and radio production, basically all media behind the scenes stuff. And I was playing in rock bands at the time. And right after college ended, of course, it's like, I'm not ready for the real world yet. What's the job I even want to get? The music industry was upside down when I graduated college in 2004. iTunes was like just starting. So the way that everybody got music was not by buying it or by iTunes. It was by just illegally downloading it on whatever servers those were.
Napsters of the world.
Oh, it was, yeah. I mean, I basically got to college, and on day one, I think my roommate was like, you ever hear of Napster? And then it was like, that was it. We were just Napstering. Wow, that was the day. Anyway, the music world, I was like, well, let me go play music. And I would tour a little bit with my band at the time. And in touring, you have no money. You get paid nothing. It's something that you either do because you're really working hard to make it a profession or because you just like doing it. And I was just liked doing it. And part of what I liked was the travel and experiencing different things, different places. And wherever I went, I would be like, hey, go to the bar really early to load in my small bit of equipment. And then I'd be like, oh, what's the good pizza around here? And my passion grew based on the answers from all these bars around the country. Oh, you got to go to this place. I used to work there. Here, I'll tell them Steve sent you or whatever. And that's when I started realizing, like, oh, everybody's got their own pizza culture. Even though you hear about New York and Chicago, and nowadays you hear about New Haven and Detroit and all that. But I remember back then, the first time I ever heard about New Haven being a good pizza town, I thought, never knew that. Never been to New Haven. I booked a show in New Haven. And I ate 2 of the pizzerias that day. And I was like, this is wild. This is nothing like what I grew up with. And that's what sparked the passion, understanding that there were differences. And then it inspired this desire to understand what drove those differences, which the answers became history, science, the culture of a city, economics, geopolitics, everything.
Couple of one-offs from that. First of all, what was the band name, if you remember?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we had the weirdest band names. There was one band called the Martha Dump Truck Massacre. Then there was a band called Hijack Jupiter. was a band called the Holly Hotchers. That was like back in high school. It was a band called, then my like solo thing was called the Bikini Car Wash Company. You can listen to us on Spotify with an album that I recorded in my basement or in my attic of my college house with this microphone, probably.
Okay, that's a lot I could unpack that. I'll save it for another one. Then you're touring around the country. Once you started, thinking about this pizza culture city by city, you said you went to Connecticut, you went to New Haven. Did you start planning tours based off of pizza at that point, or is that a total extrapolation? Like, were you saying, "Hey, I want to go book, a show in New Haven to try the pizza," or is that not correct?
I was probably 6 months away from doing that when I
Yeah,
stopped playing music as much. But basically, if we had a choice between one city and another, and I heard that there was better pizza in the one city, that's where we go.
okay. So you are doing your band or in the band, rocking and rolling, and then at what point did you hang up the instrument? What instrument did you play, by the way?
Drums was my main instrument, and then
Okay.
I'd play guitar when the bands felt you can't tour as a solo drummer.
Yeah.
So I would play
Blue Man
guitar
Group.
and write
Blue Man Group's the
songs.
only exception there, I guess.
Which one?
The Blue Man Group.
Oh, you're right. Blue Man Group is all drums. Yeah. But they're so
I'm just
serious.
messing.
But
Um,
when we tour, I used to keep track of all the pizza in a journal. So
nice.
I literally have the receipts of this experience touring and writing notes in a journal book that said the only thing I wrote about was what pizza we ate. So I around that time, it must have been maybe 2007 that I stopped playing as much music because I had to get a job. I got a job. I had a bunch of different jobs in audio production. I was working at a recording studio in New Jersey where every day the bands would want to order pizza because it was cheap. They paid $800 for the studio that day. They want to pay $15 for a pizza at the time. So it became real fun for me to order pizza for them. That was like part of my job, was to
Cool.
order pizza for the band and make coffee for the band. And so I'd be up for ordering the pizza every day, and that started to become more interesting to me than the bands and their music, which was usually not great.
Yeah, it's a interesting inflection point. And then, did Slice Out start first, or did the pizza tours start first for you?
Pizza Tour started first.
Okay,
Slice Out was like a branch off of that. But the Pizza Tours
gotcha.
was really like I quit my job September of 07.
Tough time to be making a career pivot.
Nobody knew though
Probably.
because
Yeah.
the economy didn't tank till a few months later.
Okay.
08,
Yeah.
September, October. And maybe financial experts saw something at that time a year before, but nobody was talking about it in my world. So I left my job, which was I was working for the city of Hoboken, New Jersey. I was a events coordinator for the Department of Cultural Affairs, and I started. I just realized that wasn't the job I wanted to have forever. It was the
Yeah.
kind of job that you could, if you stay there, you could retire after 25 years with a pension, a state pension, and it was the kind of job where like if you get that job, you're kind of set. But that didn't interest me at all. So I was like, I'm out. I hit the eject button, and I gave myself 6 months to just let my mind wander and to figure it out. Because the buffer thing that like, especially these days, everybody's talking about how there's your circumstance sets you up for a lot of situations, and the way that you respond to your circumstance some people talk about how much of it things are luck or how much of it is timing. I mean, everything's important and there's tons of stuff you can't control, but it's always a lot about taking advantage of opportunities. I had a weird opportunity that would sound terrifying and scary to a lot of people, but I took it, where I was hired as the caretaker for a historic ferry boat in Hoboken, New Jersey. And that means that you take care of this 100-year-old ship and make sure it doesn't sink. And in exchange for that, you get to live there for free. So
Hmm.
I took this gig probably 2006. I took this gig. So by '07, a year later, or maybe a year and a half later, when I quit my job, I did that knowing that I didn't have to pay rent. So I had this safety net.
Yeah.
I didn't have rent to pay. I could take 6 months off. I have that luxury. And I was 25 at the time. So it was like, all right, I got time to bounce back. I feel like that's a lot harder to do if you're like 55,
Right. Right. Right.
like quit everything. No. So I did that. And that's when my brain totally went pizza. I, I started driving my friends to pizzerias for fun. And then for my birthday, I rented a school bus and I had the bus driver take us to 5 pizzerias. And at the end of that day, everybody got off that bus, like 30 of my friends, and they all said, like, this is the best experience. You should do this as a job. You should do this for real. And so I started the business 6 months later based on that totally unplanned birthday party, what turned out to be like a prototype. And then Slice Out Hunger came as a branch of that because when I started running this pizza store business, it formed these great connections with pizzerias, and then they all wanted to give back, and they'd be like, "Hey, why don't you have a pizza party? Invite your friends. I'll give you 5 free pies." And I was like, "Well, my friends have jobs; they could pay $1 per slice." So we turned it into a fundraising opportunity for an organization in New York called City Harvest. They collect food and they redistribute food. So we were like, "All right, let's do something for good," because I started this small business, and I was like, "Well, I always community service is always really important to me." So from day one, I figured like let's make community service part of what we do, and Slice Out Hunger was the phrase that we used to talk about anything we did that was a hunger relief charity.
Super, super cool origin story of your business and where you are today. So that was what, your 26th birthday you did the first prototype pizza tour?
Yes.
And then you have 6 months from birthday to, business inception. Were you socializing this idea with friends, family? Like, how did you go from fun birthday party, people, giving you your flowers, saying great job, to starting the business? Were your parents worried about you? What was that, 6 month journey like for you?
My friends didn't really flinch at all. My family didn't flinch very much. My parents did a little bit. I remember my mom's exact phrase, because remember I was living on a historic ferry boat at
Right,
the
right.
time. So it already wasn't normal. And I remember my mom's thing being like, "So is this what you're doing now?" And I said, "Yeah, this is for real. This is what I'm actually doing." Because I knew nothing about tourism, didn't know anybody in the business, nobody I could call, like, "Hey, it's your nephew. Can you help me get into this business?" Nothing like that. So I had to figure out, how do you get a ticketing company? How do you market? How do you run a business from day one? How do you pay taxes, for a corporation? Everything. So my mom was definitely like, "Is this what you're doing? Make sure you're doing it right." And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm doing my best." But they weren't that surprised because I sort of had a reputation for always, I would like tour around the country in a little Plymouth Breeze, like
Yeah.
with a clamshell on top with my drum kit in it. Uh, yeah,
Now, for you get the business started, who were you going to market? Who were you marketing towards? Were you trying to do more birthday parties? Were you going to corporations saying, "Hey, let me do your corporate outing"? What was it like trying to, sell your first batch of Scott's Pizza Tours?
Hey, Arjon, it's so funny you say that because all those would have been the best ideas, and I didn't know any of those were possible. I didn't know a company was gonna do I didn't know anybody for a birthday party. I thought, no, it's public tours, so every tour goes out and you sell 10 tickets or 20 tickets, and that's it. So I went out. I was very stupid. I thought, oh well, just people like me are gonna want to do this. So I sent out press releases that were basically aimed towards somebody like me, just because I like pizza. Maybe I should just pretend I'm writing to myself. And it worked a little bit. Like it got some good press right off the bat. But now looking back at some of that press, it was a long time ago. It's really weird. This like young guy, baby faced boy, not Italian at all, not from New York at all, talking about pizza for 5 hours. Like, I don't know. But I think the quirkiness was what helped it. So
Okay,
that early marketing was to individuals because I didn't know that group tours existed.
got it. And so, did you have a set, pizza or locations you would always go to? Was there a bus involved in V1 of the business? What was that like?
Yeah, from day one, I thought it was going to be every Sunday, a bus, and that's it. And maybe we add another bus another day of the week, or I don't know. Sunday was just less traffic, so easier to get around the city. And the original concept was to go to different places every single time.
Hmm.
Meet me at a different place every time. I very quickly changed that to like, no, we always meet at this place. And then we go to 3 other places from there and then come back. So that's evolved a little bit over the years. We've changed where we meet. We still go to 4 places, but the bus tour is always 4 pizzerias, 4 different styles, 4 different neighborhoods, and it's by bus. We have another tour, the walking tour, which is 1 neighborhood, 3 pizzerias. It's only 2.5 hours instead of 4.5 hours like the bus. And 3 different pizzerias, 3 styles.
Now, at what point were you able to start, building relationships with the pizzerias, giving them the heads up we're coming with the tour, maybe getting some, relationship goodwill with the different shops you're going to?
The very start of that was the day that I took my tour guide exam. So in New York and in DC, you have to take a sightseeing guide exam, and the
Huh.
city has to license you. So it was the day that I took that test and failed it, that immediately after failing it, and I thought like, oh well, I guess this is never going to happen. I walked up a few blocks to Lombardi's Pizzeria in Soho, and I just asked to meet with the manager, sat down with the manager for 5 minutes, pitched what I wanted to do as if I had passed the test, which I did a few days later. But and his name's Gilbert. He's still there, and he said, "Let's try it once. I'll try anything once." And I thought, this is awesome, but if I'm going to launch this business, I can't just have one date on the calendar, because you go to the
Yeah.
website. If you can't book anything, you're never going to go back to the website. So I listed like 30 Sundays, and I figured if he gives me the boot, what's the worst that happens? I just have to cancel on these people. It's okay. And he said he loved it the first time we came. He said, yeah, come again next time. We'll see if it works. And then again and again. And I think for 12 years, we started almost every tour there.
So cool. Yeah, I actually went to Lombardi's for the first time on Wednesday night. I was telling you before we started filming, I did my own little pizza tour of Greenwich and Soho the past couple of days. Just coincidentally, I had a quick little few minutes between meetings, so I went to La Industry, the new one in Westfield. That was so good. That was really, really good. And ironically, I just sent my brother my Instagram algorithm is messed up. My Discover feed is all pizza, golf, and watches maybe. But like I saw the La Industry pop up on my Discover feed. I sent it to my brother. I'm like, hey, look how good this pizza looks. And then the next day I was with my friends. And like, hey, we should go here. And I tried it. And it was out of this world.
Mm-hmm. What
So
slice did you get?
I just got the cheese or the I think it's cheese or margarita that they have there. Whatever the traditional
The
like American
regular
cheese
slice.
so good. So good. So I did that. Have to go to John and Bleeker's. That's probably my favorite in the city, at least in my small apparatus of pizza shops that I've tried. Went to Upside Down, and then I really love Joe's too. I love the style of Joe's, just New York slice style like that. So I checked off those ones on my list, and I'm open to any and all suggestions. I haven't been out to Brooklyn ever before, so that's next on my list. I need to get out there and start checking some of those off.
That's cool. That's a great set of pizzerias you went to. Yeah, and it's funny because like that's what I used to do with friends is, oh, let's drive around or walk around and hit up a bunch of spots, and we would just chat about the differences. And what changed it from that kind of like walking around and doing a food crawl into being a tour was that now like I understand when you list off those places, I'm like, oh, that's a cool tour because there are different ovens for each place. There's a different dough for each place. There's a different flour used in the dough for each place. So it's not only different pizza. It's like the bones of the pizza are different. And on a tour, we would be telling you all about those differences and why they made the taste the way that you liked it or didn't like it.
100%. And I think I have a newfound appreciation for really just all sort of like bread making, but pizza in particular. In, typical pandemic fashion, I got really into sourdough, and understand the proofing process and how complex and meticulous you need to be, and how gentle and difficult the process is. So every time, I feel like understanding that, having appreciation, like we talked about baking steel, seeing the just how many different variables go into making pizza, I feel like I have such a newfound and even further appreciation for how amazing it is, the art that these people are putting together.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's kind of the whole point of the pizza tour is to take something that's so simple and elemental and basic that everybody has experience with. Nobody thinks that they need deeper knowledge to appreciate it, like wine or cheese. Everybody understands it, but it's so much more going on than anybody realizes. And you don't need to know what's going on to know what you like, but it's an interesting way to open your mind and to see that it gives you a better appreciation. So maybe next time you're at that pizzeria, you get why something is happening with the pizza. You understand.
Yeah.
And it doesn't just become like, oh, this place is bad or this place is good. It becomes like, oh, they do this thing, which I realize I don't like. And it's a common thread at the three places I don't like.
To that end, I'd love to hear your perspective on this, because I think one person that does that well is Portnoy for the Barstool Pizza reviews. Is he'll go and do the pizza review and say, hey, this isn't my style of pizza, but I can understand why someone might like this. Have you interacted with him at all? Any thoughts on what they're doing with their pizza reviews there? Because I've discovered a bunch of different pizza shops myself in different cities through their reviews, but I'd be curious if you've had any overlap. I know they're, in New York a bunch.
Yeah, I always appreciate any system that sends people to pizzerias and becomes a discovery engine for it. The thing I don't love is I don't agree with the idea of reducing a restaurant to a number ever. Unless there's I think the context is more important. So in
Yeah.
a review, for instance, like New York Times review, a place gets 2 stars. That to me is not as important as what I read in the article, because
Right.
I wouldn't not go to a place that only got 1 star. So I think, and the issue is in the Portnoy reviews is that there's not any context. It's just the context is his own experience. And that's where I think it loses a lot of value for anybody besides people who constantly follow him.
Right.
And I
That's fair.
think he's not the attitude and perspective that I like, that I want to listen to and follow. And he's a real problematic person. And I feel like the perspective that those reviews give is very specific. It doesn't take away all value of it. It just means that it puts more pressure on the reader or the listener or the viewer to understand where what he says falls in a greater context, because we know he doesn't like Neapolitan pizza. I think he always says, oh, it starts, the highest it can get is a 6 or whatever.
Right.
Which is fine. There's nothing wrong with saying that. It's just that style of pizza, Neapolitan pizza, doesn't abide by the same characteristics as New York style. So if you're looking for crunchy, cheesy, not floppy, whatever, that's specific styles. Not every style is meant to do that. The original pizza on planet Earth would never stay up and stay snappy. It's just, that's why on a tour, what we do is really the opposite of what a pizza review does. We don't want to review the pizza. We want to understand what's happening. The review is very personal. So somebody on the tour, at the end of the tour, I might say, "Oh, was anybody's favorite stop on this tour stop number 2?" And then people, I don't care about how many people raise their hand. I care about why. So I'll say,
Yeah.
"Oh, well, what made it your favorite?" And if they If they say, oh, well, it was less salty than everything else, then I'm like, all right, cool, good to know.
Yeah, it's a fair answer, and I mean, it goes back to your point. Even when we talked about chain pizzas in the first place, the reason why Pizza Hut was your favorite, you can't just say one blanket answer because you have to be able to explain it. So it makes sense, and it's a very very
Yeah.
dichotomous to your day to day as well. So it makes a
Well,
ton of sense.
it's tough because like it's funny. Like I run this business that's all based on pizza and pizza reviews and being judgmental and having a TikTok video where you make a proclamation or a hot take or a tweet that's a hot take tweet. That's all very popular right now because the algorithms of all these social media platforms favor the controversy, and pizza is a very lightweight controversy.
Right,
So
right.
if you're looking for interaction, you toss out something about pineapple pizza and you get interaction. To me, that's like cheap, and it's not, it doesn't progress. All it progresses are the ad revenues of these giant companies who don't like you. They just treat you as an unpaid employee for them to help them sell ads. And that's why I feel like the having this like, this is the best, this is the one. It's trained us as food eaters to want to only care about going to they don't want to miss the place that multiple people have said is the important place to go. It's different from word of mouth from people personally. Because
Yeah,
somebody I know personally there's nothing in it for them to tell me. Meanwhile, you go and see a TikToker who's the 25th person today to recommend this hot dog place. And you're like, oh, they saw this trend. Everyone likes the hot dog place. I'll go and do a video about the hot dog place. Yawn fest. So
yeah,
that's why we try to go to places on the tour that are not the most famous, most popular. I like when people get on the bus, they have no decisions to make. I make all the decisions. And I guarantee that they're going to be helpful decisions. I want to take them to a place. Like I don't announce in advance even what borough we go to. You can't
Hmm.
sign up for the Bronx tour. You can't sign up for a Brooklyn tour on the bus. You sign up for a Sunday bus tour and you go where I feel like I want to go. And I interview everybody on the tour. If you're on the tour and you're like, oh, me and my brother are here. I live outside of Virginia. He lives in Queens. Then I'm like, okay. And I figure out, well, maybe we'll go to Staten Island today because nobody in this group's
Interesting.
from Staten Island. So I love that. It's not based on, oh, I'm going to take you to the top 5 rated pizzerias because those are rated by some person who's not you. And there's 32
Right.
people on that tour. So there's no way to get the top 4 for all 32 people. It's crazy. And it's just,
No, I,
I know we've gotten into deeper territory. I just think it's a dangerous way to let ourselves think, which is controlled really by popularity and algorithms, and try to avoid that.
no, I get it, and I mean, to your point, there's so much subjectivity into it too. And for me, what I like about what you do with your tours and a lot of these other, like even with, like I said, the Barstool example is I need to see the pizza. And what I love about what you do in your videos is being able to see into the kitchen and do a deep dive of the actual process. But I think there's a matter of, for me, it's so visual and seeing what the actual pizza looks like. Because I feel like that's my view, and what I like is very different than what you might like. So it makes a ton of sense. Along, maybe a more controversial pizza topic, what's your favorite frozen pizza? Or do you have a, category of frozen pizzas that you like? I'm sure you've gotten this question before, but I'd be curious your perspective.
I actually just listened to a podcast yesterday that covered frozen pizza pretty in a lot of depth. This is a podcast called Pizza Pod Party, which is only about pizza. And they
Mm,
interviewed this guy, Bill Oakley, who was a writer for The Simpsons for like a decade. And he knows a ton about frozen pizza. And I, on the other hand, just like chain pizza, I have so little experience with it. So I'm not qualified to answer the question because there's just never, I don't have a frozen pizza at home at all times. Like most people do. It's
yeah.
like for emergency. I don't. But I will say this. In the past 5 years, independent pizzerias have launched their own frozen pizza chains or frozen pizza companies. And that's changed everything. It used to be that there were like 5 frozen pizza companies, and they were all garbage. And now there's like 500, and they're not all the same. So I'm not qualified to answer the question, but I would love to test out a bunch. Maybe I'll make that a project. But honestly, Arjan, my freezer is so small. I like can't even think about like, oh yeah, let me order 10. Let me go pick up 10 frozen pizzas. I got to do it in an organized way. Maybe I'll do like a big pizza party. Maybe we'll do a Slice Out Hunger event where it'll be like a frozen pizza taste off.
That'd be fun. Good content too.
Yeah, you're right.
Let me ask you.
Work those algorithms.
That's what I'm saying. Let me ask you this, or even this is maybe another idea for you. Next Slice Out Hunger, you could do a world record, get another world record under your belt for most frozen pizzas consumed by a group or something like that.
Whoa,
something to that effect.
So it's funny you mentioned that because, man, I feel like I'm full of contradictions here. But like, even though so I have a Guinness World Record for pizza box collection, but I'm very much not into the biggest group of people, biggest pizza kind of records, mainly because, again, it's just promoting this idea of like a size of something, which all you have to do is just beat the record by one, and then it's just a race of waste in a lot of ways. But there's also the Guinness World Record thing. It costs money. It's not cheap. So
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, dude, I didn't realize that either. Guinness, I mean, it's a company, it's a business. It's the beer company.
Yeah.
And they are in business because when look at what were all the world records used to be a little bit more like, remember when the book was small and really thick, like a kind of like a dictionary, printed on newsprint, really soft, cheap paper. And then you would see like the woman with the longest fingernails. That was always the best page and the grossest. But that kind of stuff. And then it started to become more about, the most people hopping on one foot while singing "Oh Susanna" or whatever. And then I think it changed a little bit because like you have to pay for a Guinness World Record person to come out. It's a bigger business thing. I only got my world record because I was collecting these pizza boxes so I could write a book about pizza box art. That was the whole thing. So I wrote this book called Viva la Pizza, The Art of the Pizza Box. It's all this beautiful pizza box artwork. And in collecting boxes, I was like, I got a few hundred of these. I should, like any sane person, I should call up Guinness World Records and let them know, hey, fear not, I've got the record. And then they turn around and say, all right, here are your pricing options. Do you want us to come visit you? Do you want to film it with your own camera and you can save $2,000? And I'm like, I think it was going to cost $7,000. And I said, thanks, but no thanks. Unfortunately, like the only reason I have the world record is because that was when they were doing this thing called Guinness World Record Day. And it happened to be 2 weeks after my book came out. And they were like, hey, we like this record. We want to make it a world record. We realize that you don't want to pay for it. They're like, we'll waive the fee if you let us use it for our press release. And I was like, wait, free world record and you're going to put out a press release? So I was like, heck yeah. So that's why I have that world record is you have to pay for it.
Interesting. Well,
and
good on you for good on you for sticking to your guns and then ended up working out in your favor there anyways,
I mean, listen, and at this point I have so many more pizza boxes that if anybody wanted to break that record, if I wanted it back, I could just be like, all right, give me 2 days and I'll catalog the collection and find some money. And I don't want to.
I get you. I get you.
Yeah. So again, anyway, the world record thing is a slippery slope.
Now, for anyone listening on audio or who haven't seen your videos or content before, for someone who's this deep into the pizza space, you might presume that Scott is, struggling with fitness and wellness. You're not, from what I can tell at least, you're not out of shape by any stretch of the imagination. How do you stay in shape eating so much pizza constantly? It's a question that I get from my friends, like we were talking about before we started filming. How do you balance, eating pizza for a living with staying healthy?
there's a common misconception that pizza is bad for you and that it's always a cheat food and, oh, I'm being bad, I'm eating pizza. But the truth is, pizza is not bad for you. It's just that bad pizza is bad for you. You know when you're
Hmm.
eating that Papa John's, that pizza is very different from the pizza you get at a good pizzeria like you went to places the other day. Upside, Lindustry, all this. Because their dough is a longer fermentation process. And when you get in a long fermentation process, that's when you get breakdown of starch. And that's when you get the yeast and amylase enzymes in the dough are doing the work that your body no longer has to do. So part of it is I don't go overboard. I have a limit, 15 slices per week, my limit.
Really? Is
Yeah.
that like an actual learn for yourself? Wow.
15 a week. And I could have all 15 in one day. But then I'm done for the week. So, when I go to a new pizzeria and I try 7 slices, I'm like, all right, that's half the budget. So that's one thing. Also, look, you can tell when a pizza is like extra cheesy. That's something your body doesn't like need. Every once in a while, I'll get something super cheesy, but I tend to like less cheese, fewer meats. Look, it's all about balance. I live in New York City, and for anybody listening who doesn't spend much time in New York City, it's a town that's very easy to get around without having a car, and very, very easy and more efficient to get around when you ride a bike, which is what I do. So I bike everywhere. And New York City is not huge, but if I'm biking 20 miles a day, that's about a round trip for me to go into the city, go into Manhattan, do a tour and come back. 20 miles a day, uphill, going over the bridges. That's a pretty good workout. So that's it. Eat good pizza, get some movement in your bones.
It could be a little next iteration of your book, a health and wellness, but all around pizza.
Whoa. I am the last person in the world to write a health and wellness book. So I'm in okay shape, but I'm not in great shape at the moment, but I blame that more on becoming a father.
Fair enough. How old's your daughter?
She's 9 months tomorrow.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
I mean,
I don't actually blame her. She's an angel. She's done nothing wrong in her life.
I hear you. I mean, I think about it all the time, right? Like, I love my pizza, and I like to work out. I like to think I'm in good shape. I think there's a fitness regimen that could be really popular, saying, "Hey, like you can eat pizza and eat pizza and have pizza and eat it too," or whatever the have your cake and eat it too saying.
Arjan, there's already a book about this. It's called The Pizza Diet, and it's written by Pasquale Cozzolino.
Huh.
Yes. I know him. He has a pizzeria in New York. He's a great guy. And he wrote a book called The Pizza Diet, where he ate one whole pizza every day for like 6 months and lost a ton of weight.
I might need you to introduce me to that. That's pretty interesting. I kind of subscribe to it. Beautiful. Thank you. That's crazy. Now, all right. That's the wheels are turning here. Now, let me ask you this. We're a month into 2024. You have, like I said earlier, many people's dream job. What's to come for Scott's Pizza Tours for Slice Out? What are you most excited for this year? Whether it's growth, whether it's steady state, what are you excited for the new year?
We've been around a long time at this point. Slice Out Hunger has been officially a 501c3 since 2015. Scott's Pizza Tours has been around since 2008. So the theme for this year for both of them is trying new stuff. It's getting out of the comfort zone. We already did a vegan pizza tour last weekend. So I'm starting to do these like collaboration tours with other tour companies. So I linked up with a vegan company, a vegan tour company, and for Veganuary, we did a vegan pizza tour. So Verena, the founder of Vegan Tours NY, she talked all about the vegan stuff on the tour, and I talked all about the history stuff. And all the pizza we ate was animal-free, and that was it. So we got that. We're going to have a gluten-free tour. There's probably going to be a Detroit-style tour on Detroit-style Pizza Day in June, a pepperoni tour on Pepperoni Day. there's all these days. So I just figured let's get more creative and do some like I love the format. I think that the success of this company is built on the fact that we have a format, a pattern. But I want to break out of that pattern and create a new pattern of
Hmm.
experimentation. So I've done all these pop-up tours in other cities over the years, but it's never been regular. Now I want to make it a little bit more regular. So that's on the pizza tour side. It's a little bit more experimentation with that. Slice Out Hunger just went through a rebrand. So we've got a whole new brand set up. We're going to add some more people to the board of directors. We're going to be like really puffing up because Slice Out Hunger's growth is huge right now, which is not a good thing because it's only because there's such an increase in food insecurity in the country that Slice Out Hunger pre-pandemic was like doing its thing and it was great and it did a good thing at times of need. Now, Slice Out Hunger is more necessary. So we've hired a small staff. There are people who actually work for Slice Out Hunger. It used to be me sitting here on this laptop, and that was it. Not the most efficient nonprofit. Now it's a bigger nonprofit. So, we're looking for sponsors and board members. So any of your listeners are interested in getting involved, sliceouthunger.org, Scott at sliceouthunger.org. Hit me up.
Beautiful. Well, if you ever are down in DC and looking for an impromptu DC pizza tour, we can trade notes on that. Like I said,
I
I'm up
will
in the
be in
city a bunch.
DC in May.
Okay, let's do it. I'll be in New York before then, so hopefully we get a chance to connect in person before then. But
Please.
one, I just want to say how happy I am for you, and congratulations to you and all that you built, and thank you for all that you're doing for the community with Slice Out Hunger as well. And then, yeah, just very appreciative of your time and excited to stay in touch and talk more pizza with you.
It's always an honor to be able to do this kind of stuff, and I'm thankful every day that somehow it fell into place and has worked. It's totally weird, but it's a huge honor, and I feel like doing something that for the community is just should be part of everybody's daily existence. So that's really important, and being able to talk to people about pizza, it's just I gotta tell you, it's unlocked so many relationships that like I'm doing a tour tomorrow for it's a birthday and it's for somebody who's got kind of a complicated medical history and this birthday is kind of a celebration of being still here for this person and I'm just like thinking about how this person is chosen for their it's a birthday that ends with a zero, so it's like a big year birthday. They want to spend it with me investigating pizza. And I'm just like, how privileged I am to be able to spend time with this person and his family, essentially celebrating this person being alive. So I'm just blown away by it every day.
I love the attitude for gratitude, and I'll be sure to plug all things Scott in my show notes here, all things Slice Out Hunger. And yeah, thanks again for the time, and I look forward to staying in touch.
Thank you. I look forward to meeting you in person, grabbing a slice.